Hi everyone, and welcome to The Path to Reason. I'm your host, Cindy Plaza, and tonight we're going to talk about the trans in sports question and why it's inherently transphobic. But before we start diving into it, I want to make something very clear. Um, the topic itself and the question itself is transphobic doesn't mean that everyone who um, talks about it or thinks about it or anything is transphobe, because um, we all have opinions that might hurt certain demographics. That doesn't mean we have hate. Like, you can have some racist ideas without even knowing they're racist, and that happens quite a lot actually. Uh, but that doesn't necessarily make you a racist, in the same way that you can think about something like the trans in sport question and not realize why it's transphobic. That doesn't necessarily make you a transphobe. In my opinion, to be able to say about someone this is a transphobe, a racist, a homophobe, it requires at least one or two elements. It's hate towards a certain demographic and a sense of superiority towards this same demographic. And those two characteristics need to be demonstrated in order to be able to say about someone that they are transphobic or transphobe or racist or anything. So we've talked already several times on my channel about how we need to differentiate ourselves from our ideas, that we are not our ideas or um, our beliefs, because we can change our ideas or beliefs and we don't really change ourselves. So it goes both ways. We used to say that about theists when they feel attacked when we debunk their religious claims. But in the opposite way, the fact that someone has an idea, that doesn't mean they are they're necessarily identified to this idea. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm pretty sure anyone who's watching this channel has heard about this trans in sports question, where it's usually painted as a way to pretend that trans women are not actually women because they have an unfair advantage compared to cis women. And so this is problematic for several reasons. I understand that from a science perspective, I get that scientists can investigate the question, whether it's hormone levels or physical changes and all that. That's totally fine. But 99% of the people who talk about this, especially on YouTube or social media, they don't know anything about the science behind it, and they're definitely not scientists. Except for Richard Dawkins, who is a scientist but is clearly wrong on this topic. But anyway, why is it inherently transphobic? It's because we separate one specific group from the rest and we attributed a negative trait, which is not only undeserved most of the time, but also wrong on the basis of science most of the time too. And also, it's the only case where people care about fairness in sports, because when you talk about sports, you have people who have natural advantage, like Michael Phelps, for example, who has genetic mutation that allows him to create less lactic acid from the rest of the population, and that helps him train more before getting tired. He also recuperates much faster, and that gives him an unfair advantage to the rest of his competitors. But no one is saying, "Oh, that's unfair. We should do something about this." No, he is praised for that specific difference. On the other hand, you look at Castemania, the runner who has naturally high hormone levels. I think it's the CIO, the Olympic Committee, International Olympic Committee. They asked her to take medication to lower her testosterone level, which is insane when you think about it, because talk about double standards. On one hand, you have a man. Clearly, it's different because men are supposed to be strong, and the stronger they are, the higher their position is in the society, at least the perception of the strength. So anyone who has an advantage, for a man, it's seen as a plus because it makes him stronger, and men are supposed to be stronger in our society. On the other hand, a woman, if she has, especially in this case where a testosterone is a male hormone, she's displaying some male characteristics according to them, and so we need to tone down those masculine traits. And that way of thinking is insane. There is no reason why we would look at unfair advantages only regarding some demographics, and that's what makes the question transphobic. Because if you look at the same problem differently from people to people, then if you discriminate only one group of person compared to the rest over the same topic, then that's discriminatory by definition. Also, the people who claim that trans women have an unfair advantage, they usually, when you ask them to cite an example of a trans woman beating everyone in their sports, because if a trans woman was really advantaged by their past, they should be stronger than everyone, and we don't see that in any sport. And so the answer from these people when you say that is, yeah, but those are just bad. That's why they lose. It's because they are bad anyway. So there's this situation where they can never be proven wrong, and that's again an unfalsifiable claim, and you know what we think about those. I also want to point out that we only want to tone down those people who have certain perceived advantages, but we do nothing about people who have disadvantage. And I wonder why. Why wouldn't we want to put everyone on the same level if we want to do it from the top? That's something that I've never heard talked about in those discussions. But why is that? Also, I would add that the transition, physical transition, is very heavy for the body. There are a lot of surgeries, heavy surgeries. So all this also creates a disadvantage for the person. So you can say that because we had a male puberty, we have higher body mass or whatever, and that gives us an advantage. But we also have some disadvantage from the transition itself. Like I play soccer, and I started again like 2 years ago after my transition, and the hormones have this effect to re-affect your fat all over your body, and instead of being more distributed, it goes all to the thighs and the belly. And so when I started back playing football, I had this extra weight on the legs, which my body wasn't used to. And so every time I wanted to change direction or stop after a quick run, I was falling because I couldn't stand on my legs because of this extra weight. So this put me a big disadvantage. Also, because of all the surgeries, I now heal much slower than the usual. I still have bruises I got last summer, and that was caused by the surgery. So it gives me another huge disadvantage, because if I get hurt during a game, then it takes me longer to be able to come back to play. So we always talk about the pseudo advantages, but nobody talks about the disadvantages, and that needs to change. And that's the reason why this question is inherently transphobic. It's because it focuses on the only perceived thing that would allow people to discriminate against a very specific set of people. Because I don't see why else people talk about this when it's just simply wrong most of the time. It's true that in some cases, in some sports, a trans woman can have an advantage over a cis woman, but we have so much variability in humans that we also can have cis women who have a natural advantage over their peers, and even over trans women. So you cannot say in general trans women have an advantage, because it's not true in general. It can be in some cases, but it's not true for everyone, and far from it, especially if the trans person started the transition before the puberty. In that case, there is absolutely no advantage whatsoever. So for that reason, those people who claim that trans women have an unfair advantage, they should be in favor of giving healthcare to children and allow them to start the transition before puberty, at least giving them blockers, hormone blockers, so that they can decide when they're older if they want to do the physical transition or not. Because puberty blockers, they have they don't have any or very little side effects, and all the studies show that for the trans people, having this as a solution helps a lot. It helps reduce suicide. It helps reduce depression. It helps reduce a lot of bad things that we experience. So yeah, we need to when this discussion is brought up, we need to remind people that not only it's not true that trans people have an unfair advantage, but these surgeries also bring their own disadvantage. So I'm going to say hi to everyone in the chat: Ascalon, Stitix, and Kat the Humanist. Since Kat is here, I'm going to talk about a little bit about what we're going to start tomorrow. Kat started an idea of a show called Women Atheists Unload, and the first episode of this show will air tomorrow, where all the hi Neil, where all the future hosts, me included, we will introduce the show and what we're going to talk about, and we'll have guests as well. So it's tomorrow at so it's 4:30 Eastern time, if my memory is correct, and so it will be a weekly show where we're going to talk about everything, not just problems related to women, but everything from our perspective. We need to have some visibility and also some representativity. We want women all over the world to realize that they have a voice and they can use it, and they will be and should be heard, and that's the purpose of the show. So I hope I will see you all tomorrow on this show. I will put the link to the show on Facebook. So if you guys have any question regarding this transit sport question, don't hesitate. How would you say the best way to approach this conversation without seeming transphobic would be? Well, it would be to ask questions instead of stating things. It's if you ask questions and you honestly want to listen to the answer, then by definition you are not transphobic. You just want to understand the situation. So yeah, I would say that asking questions to someone who knows at least a little bit of on the topic. If you want to know about the science part, then you should talk about this to a scientist. If you want to talk about it on the social perspective, then yeah, you can talk about it to someone like me or other trans people who acknowledge that this is a problem. And I say that because I wasn't aware that this was a problem until last year, because I only saw the scientific side, because I'm science oriented and I like to understand things, and so it's not a bad thing to investigate things. Of course, we need to know what's going on, but that's precisely the reason why we need to let the science and the scientists do their work. But on the other hand, we need to accept what they say, and science says that there is, unless in very certain specific cases, there is no real advantage. And also, we need to understand that there is a huge variability in the human body, and that a trans woman who had a male puberty is still inside the range of normal cis women capability. It's not like cis women can do this and trans women can do this. No, trans women, they're just inside this area. They're not above. Are some places doing a better job understanding this in the sports than others? So I think it depends on the mentality in the country. I know that here in Belgium, I can play soccer and I never had any problem either with my team or even the opposing teams. They've never complained about me or said anything about this. So yes, there is no real advantage, but I can assure you that France is less tolerant on this topic than Belgium, and definitely the US is even less tolerant uh, uh, about this. So, yeah, again, I don't want to generalize, but in general, in the US, we've seen a lot of cases, court cases, where trans kids have been accused of cheating or having an unfair advantage, and those simply don't exist in Belgium. I haven't heard about any such lawsuits in France. But yeah, I can tell you that in Belgium, nobody cares. And I would add that in the Olympics, there's been trans athletes for at least 20 years. They've been authorized, for that long. So we would know, I think, by now, if the trans women in those sports were better, stronger than everyone else, and that's not the case. So do we have any other question? They have had problems here with having even high school girls playing in traditional boys team in some places. Yes, again, it's not a generalization. I guess it depends on the state you are in the US more than just the country. I guess in Texas it's much harder than in California, probably. And it's also harder to implement when the trans kid hasn't done their transition yet, because from this perspective, the person doesn't look trans for the rest of the people, even that it's just a silly idea to look trans, but they just see a boy wanting to play with the girls, and or a girl wanting to play with men, which usually causes less problems. So yeah, it's harder to make it accepted in this case than after the transition. Any other question? So tomorrow, as I said, this first episode of Women Atheists Unload. Next week, we're going to talk about the label 2S LGBTQIA+, what it means, what it stands for, and we'll have also some guests. It's not entirely decided which ones yet, I think. Kat can correct me if I'm wrong. But I can wait to have these discussions. We already have planned all the shows for February, I think. So we have the topics. We just need to find the guests for those. Bye, Neil. Thanks for showing up. At the school I work at, the trans kids get to play where they identify, and I'm grateful for that. Yes, that's amazing, and that's how it should be. But for that to be accepted, we need to make some education before. You cannot, because we live in a society where gender is extremely binary. You're either a woman or you're a man. There's nothing in between. There's no way to go from one to another. It's just one or the other. And that's ingrained in our society. So if you want to if you want kids to be more accepting to it and have this situation in a school, there needs to be some education at first by the school or by the parents. Yeah, I hope this is going to spread this tolerance towards trans kids, because, and I speak from experience, it's extremely hard to deal with this when you're a child. When you see everyone around you being in some way and you're the only one different, and especially in the case where your parents don't understand it, or you think they won't understand it and you hide it, it's even harder. So we need to make sure we ease this situation for them. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say on this topic. Think about the disadvantage when you have someone telling you that trans women are so much stronger, allegedly, than cis women. Think about the fact that this is discriminatory because it singles out one group of people over others who share the same characteristics, and you should be fine. So thanks, Kat. Thanks, Ascalon. Thanks, Stitix. Yes, I will put the link in the show notes as soon as I have it. And as always, if you like the show, please like, subscribe, click on the bell. If you want to help my channel, you can go to my Amazon wishlist and buy me a couple books. That's all I have in there. And thank you again for showing up, and see you next time.